Redshift here, doing my part to shift perceptions out of the pink and into the red. Okay, so today in this video I want to talk about psychology, therapy, psychiatry, etc. First I want to say that these professions are fatally flawed because of the trust issue and the money issue. How can you trust someone when they are just doing this for a paycheck, right? Like everything just becomes a job. Like, even if you love art, right? Like, art is your favorite thing, you're good at art, you just love it, and you do it all through high school and stuff, like in your free time, you just love art, so you want to go to art school and be an artist. So then you become a professional artist, and then you don't love it anymore, because it's a job now. Everything that you do for money, or because you have to, rather than because you want to, it becomes a chore. It becomes this thing that, yeah, maybe it's not as bad as like another job would be, you know, because you like art, but it's no longer for fun. It's no longer enjoyable. It's a job, you know, and maybe you're good at it, maybe you get better at it, and you're still striving to get better and stuff, and you do, but that doesn't mean that you enjoy it all the time. You're musicians, they'll be playing a concert, and they're thinking about, you know, their wife or their grocery list or their kids. They're thinking about all kinds of other things other than the song they're singing as they're standing up there on stage, you know what I mean? Like this, I don't know if this happens all the time, but I remember reading, I don't know, Billy Joel or somebody asked him, like, what are you thinking about when you're up on stage? Are you, like, thinking about, like, other things and stuff? And he either said that yes, he is, or yes, sometimes he does. So I don't know, like, whether they always do that, or whether it's just some of the time, but, like, you know, therapy is the same way. It just becomes a job. Maybe you want to get into it because you care about people, but then it just becomes a job. And then you're not doing it because you care anymore. You're just doing it because it's your job. So, you know, even if you are a compassionate person, it kind of almost burns the compassion out of you because you're doing it as a job, right? You have to show up every day. You have to do it. You have to get the money. You have to get so you can pay your bills so you don't end up on the street. So, you know, considering the alloyed intentions there, the pure intentions and the impure intentions, that makes it so that, you know, it's not a pure thing anymore, you know? So I think people intuitively understand that there's a stigma against therapy because people intuitively understand that therapy and seeing a psychiatrist or a psychologist is a thing that it betrays sort of a weakness, because even if it's not like a like, oh, well, tell me what to do, tell me what to think, or I'm so weak I can't fix my problems myself. It's in a different way. It's not that so much as it is like you are falling for, it's almost a simpish thing, almost like being a blue pill guy, really, because you're falling for the psychologist or the therapist's, you know, line, which is that, you know, I care and I can help you, right? No, you don't care because it's just your job. Number two, you're doing it for money. Number three, like, you know, how can I trust you? Because you know, I can't trust you if you don't care, and if you do care, the relationship is not really a friendship or anything, or even if it kind of is, it's like it's going to end once the therapy ends. So why would I want to, like, you know, get into a relationship that's not going to last? You know, that's just going to cause me pain, you know, once it ends. You know what I mean? And even if they do make you care about them and they do it through manipulation, well, then you're going to eventually realize that they were manipulating you, and then you're going to try to undo all the progress that they did for you, that they helped you achieve while you were seeing the psychologist or the therapist, because you realize, you know, why would I want to take these tools forward and live in this way when this is based on the words of this person, or is something I figured out while I was, you know, talking to this therapist that at the time I thought actually was trustworthy, but then I realized later that they're not, right? Like, why would I want to let them continue to influence me in that way when I know now that they were not trustworthy, and they never were, they just manipulated me into trusting them, right? So since there can be no trust, unless it's, you know, manipulation based or delusion based, you know, like you think the therapy is going to go on forever or something, you don't like realize that it's going to end, or whatever, like, since there can be no kind of real trust between a patient and his therapist or his psychologist or psychiatrist or whatever, this means that there can be no, like, you know, real good therapy or whatever, right? I mean, the whole profession is fatally flawed at its core like that. Like, helping people should not be a profession. It just shouldn't be. It should, like, helping people should be something that everyone does, just because they're good people, right? you see someone who's hungry, you help them. You see someone who doesn't have a skill, who needs to learn some kind of skill so they can have a job, so they can have a life. Like you help them if you know some skill. Like if you're a plumber, you teach them to be a plumber. If you're a carpenter, you teach them to be a carpenter. Whatever. Like you just help everybody because the golden rule, you do to others as you would have them do to you, or you don't do to others as you would not have them do to you. And if you were in need, you would not have them just ignore you and not teach you a skill or not give you food if you were hungry, or a place to stay if you had no place to stay, or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, people should just be good to each other all the time because it's the right thing to do. People should be like that because if they were, then probably therapy and psychiatry and psychology would not even need to exist. And plus, don't even get me started on psychiatry and the drugs and all the rest of it. I mean, which are toxic and a lot of times they're not necessary. And it's just, a lot of times you could accomplish the same things with a healthier diet and losing weight and exercise and daily meditation and all the rest of it. Like, if you did all that, you could probably gain just as much, if not more, than you get out of, using the drugs that your psychiatrist prescribes you. So psychiatry, except for in cases of extreme problems, like real hardcore delusions, like a schizophrenic who thinks he's Jesus or something, other than hardcore delusions like that, really, I think most drugs are probably unneeded, right? Because almost everybody who's using these drugs prescribed by their psychiatrist is not doing all the other things that they should have tried first, like healthy eating, taking multivitamin every day, exercising, meditating every day, acting morally, having a set of precepts like the Buddhist precepts or whatever that you follow every day. You avoid lying, you avoid stealing, you avoid harming others. You avoid cheating, sexual immorality, that is. Avoid alcohol, avoid other intoxicants. Avoid harsh speech or idle speech, divisive speech. Avoid greed, avoid envy. Avoid delusions like thinking that things last. Keep in mind impermanence. Follow these virtues and meditate every day and eat healthy and exercise. And maybe, 90% of the people who are on psychiatric medication, if they did all that, they would not have to be on psychiatric medication, right? But we live in this society where everybody wants others to solve their problems for them, right? Like, instead of, and this is probably a lot of parents put their kids in, therapy or see a psychologist or whatever because they don't want to improve their own behavior. The parents don't, right? Like, they want to, cover the world in leather so they don't have to put leather on their own souls. You know what I mean? It's much easier to fix your problems, and then the whole world seems different, seems much better, right? But people instead want to get other people to fix their problems. So they want the whole world, like women, they want the whole world to treat fat people differently, instead of just losing weight. And then everybody would treat you differently. But no, instead of that, they want to get the whole world to change its opinions about fat people so they don't have to change their behavior. It's craziness, right? It's total madness. It's just this whole shunting responsibility off on other people thing. And plus, when human beings were in tribes, 50, 100, 200 people, a small little tribe, thousands or tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of years ago, there was no official psychiatrist or psychologist. And if there were, it was only because the person was old and they had already had a real job and they had already, risked their life and had a wife and had children, and now they're like an old man or an old woman, and their spouse is dead and their kids are grown up and they can't hunt anymore, they can't, raise children anymore or whatever, or they can only help with grandkids, and so they're like a wise elder in the community, right? So they would help people, and also psychedelics would help people as well. They would maybe do both. And they would help people like that, right? Like, they didn't do it for money, and food was free, so it's not like they had to pay rent, had to get food, had to be able to, buy food at the grocery store, so they got to make that money. They could just pick, berries off a bush. They could, just eat the meat that other people easily go out and hunt and shoot and kill, and then they bring it back, and then now everybody has more than enough food. You know what I mean? So, in tribes, yeah, there was sort of the therapist or the psychologist, but, there was no fake caring, and there was no, okay, this is the end of it or whatever. The person was still part of the elder's life because they're all part of the same small tribe. So even after the, therapy of the younger person ends, the counseling or the shaman helps him through some kind of, what would you call that? I don't know. When they take some kind of what would it be called? Some kind of spiritual, transformation where they take, peyote or ayahuasca or whatever. Like, the shaman helps them through it and guides them and mentors them before and after, and everything. It's kind of like therapy. Like, they're still part of the same tribe, so they still get to see that shaman. They get to pay the shaman back by, continuing to give him food, hunt. And the shaman continues helping him and his kids and his friends and his relatives, when they need psychological help and stuff. Because the shaman's not like trained to be a psychologist as a job or a therapist. He's just, a wise elder. He has common sense, he has wisdom, life experience, he knows the basic truths of life, and he has the perspective that you get with old age, right? That you can't get any other way, really. And so he, helps people because he cares. And then they help him back and take care of him, even though he's old, because they care, right? Like, there's this reciprocal caring, and there's a continual caring and a continual interaction between all those people because they're all part of the same tribe, rather than you going to the psychologist or a therapist who you've never even met before, who you don't even know, and then you get this therapy and they try to get you to trust them, and they act like they care about you, but they're really just doing it for a job, and then it ends, and now it's like you never see them again. Like, that's fake caring, that's fake trust. You know what I'm saying? So it's totally different when it's done in a tribe and it's done by a wise elder, because it's a continual relationship there. It's, you knew them before you got them to help you, and you know them afterward, right? And they've been, helping the tribe all their life, and now you're helping the tribe and you're helping them and they helped you. And it's a community thing, right? Like, people cared because they were part of a community. And if everybody were good to each other all the time, we probably wouldn't even need therapy. And I think people have a natural resistance to therapy. Maybe I said this before, I can't remember in this video, but people have a natural resistance to therapy. They don't want to use a therapist because they intuitively understand that it is fundamentally flawed, right? And the liberals and stuff, they want to, like, oh, let's get rid of the stigma against mental illness and all this. But no, the stigma against using therapy and all this is never going to go away as long as people, fundamentally realize, which they always will, that, therapy and psychology and psychiatry are fundamentally flawed. Because there can be no real trust there, no real caring there. People intuitively understand this, and so they always will have an aversion to going to therapy, that's never going to change, right? Unless we, institute anarcho-capitalism, bring back morality, etc. And then we have everybody in their own little communities, and then it's the wise elders helping people out rather than a licensed psychologist or psychiatrist or whatever, right? And plus, all the damage those psychological drugs do, the psychiatric drugs that they give people, the psychiatrists, I mean, that alone is got to be super damaging to the overall health of the entire country. I mean, it's ridiculous how many people are on psychiatric drugs and how bad a lot of those drugs are for people's health. It's insane, right? So we probably wouldn't even need hardly any drugs at all in the future if we were all moral, we were all disciplined. We had we had narco-capitalism. Everybody could live in the communities that they want to live in, how they want to live. Use the currency they want to live, say what they want to say, online or elsewhere. Do what they want to do. Marry who they want to marry. Split up assets however they want to split them up. Do tontines and all the things that are not legal these days. Whatever. Like, society would just be so much better. So this whole thing, therapy, psychology, psychiatrists pretty much should not exist. The stigma will never go away. We need to bring back caring and anarcho-capitalism and small communities and total freedom, and then the problems will start solving themselves. And until then, they won't. This has been Redshift. Hit the thumbs up button if you like this video. Hit the thumbs down button if you didn't. Peace trucks.